everybody. Welcome to Caching in the Northwest. You know this is the podcast from the birthplace of geocaching right here in the great Pacific Northwest. Now, it's Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific. I'm Chris of the Northwest, and we're going to talk about geocaches and geocachers from here and all around the globe. So while you're soaking up the sunshine, we'll be caching in the Northwest.
Yes, that's right. And tonight we're going to talk about how to level up your adventure labs with GSM times 2. Welcome, Scott.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm excited to talk about this. This is going to be a good one.
Can't wait to hear. As always, live audience, jump on into the chat and we know you will. But you need direction because that's my role here. My job is to tell you to jump into the chat and tell us and ask us all you want to know about adventure labs. We're looking for it. GSM times 2 has all the answers. So Chris J and I, we're off the hook tonight. We're just going to wind him up and let him go. But of course, we can't do anything until we bring in our laboratory lemur. Some say he isn't sitting on a cactus. He just looks that way. And others say he wins the geocaching wet t-shirt contest every year. All we know is he's called Land Monkey.
Hey, good to be back. Good to be back.
Yeah.
You
were gone, weren't you?
I was. I almost forgot what I'm supposed to do here, in fact.
Yeah. That's okay. I do that every week.
Awesome. Well, great to be back here, and a great opportunity to remind everybody that we appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep this podcast coming each and every week. Thanks to Landsharks, that's LANDSHARKZ.ca, one of our 2 corporate Denali level sponsors. Hey, folks, if you are visiting Vancouver Island this summer, don't forget to plan a visit to the Sharks store at 525 Head Street, Esquimalt, just minutes from downtown Victoria, where you can browse the products in the store, meet the awesome team, and find GC5Z4N2. That's geocaching news. Read all about it. The geocache just outside the front door with 418 favorite points. Well,
oh, yeah. And that's favorite with a U.
That's favorite points.
That's right.
All right. Well, check it all out at landsharks.ca. And don't forget about our other corporate Denali level sponsor. Well, that is Gold Country Geotourism. Plan your summer vacation trip to Gold Country by visiting exploregoldcountry.com. Learn more about the geotours, the region, the stores, the places to stay, the places to get crazy awesome food and wine and cider and just have great adventures. So don't forget to download the app as well. And that, again, is exploregoldcountry.com. And folks, if you're not a corporate Denali level sponsor and you just want to know more about supporting this here podcast, well, don't forget to go and click over on that link, on the Patreon link, that is, on the cachingnw.com website.
Well, it's sure good to have you back reading those, because the guy that did it last week just was terrible.
Was he?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Did it completely wrong.
And his co-host was no good either.
It's hard to get good help.
It is. It is.
I have a question for you, Land Monkey.
Yes.
Does Groundspeak localize favorite with a U in Canada? Do you have favorite points?
If we don't, I'm just ignoring it and implicitly putting the U in anyways.
He's got lots of practice. He ignores me all the time. No, he doesn't.
Only when you speak American. As soon as you start speaking Canadian, I listen.
Well, we've got a lot of people talking it up in the chat, and that's what we want you to do.
Isn't that great?
If you want to bring up something for tonight's show, we want you to use the hashtag level up. Of course, you can use the hashtag FATAST to bring up something for the after show, and you may have to do it a time or two. We are without our chat lackey, so bear with us. Don't bear with us. Yeah. We are not as skookum as we normally are.
That's right.
And of course, you can use the dual hashtags, podcast baking and podcast drinking, to tell us what you're working on tonight. Okay. Hey, we've got some news. I'm going to let Land Monkey read this one since it's, well, Canadian-ish.
Absolutely.
Well, and relevant to my recent hashtag geocache road trip as well.
I kind of thought so.
Yeah, good guess. All right. Well, it is a news article from, and it's funny, I actually saw the same news article while we were traveling. It's pretty cool. But it's from the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company. And it starts with the byline, "It's a big family reunion for geocachers in New Brunswick this weekend." So this is slightly dated, but stay with us.
Just within a week.
Within a week. So what they're about to talk about transpired a week ago, but that's okay. It says Fredericton had the vibe of an extended family reunion this weekend as geocachers from across the country, and I will also state from also across the United States, because I met quite a number of U.S. folks there. Geocachers from all across the country descended on the city of Fredericton for the mega geocaching event. It is named a mega because of the large number of participants. As we know, that means 500 plus. Those attending saw tutorials and did plenty of geocaching. Yes, we did. Chris Coleman of Toronto tries to participate in at least a couple mega events each year to meet up with friends. I wonder who Chris Coleman is. Anyways.
Not one of your friends, apparently.
Well, not somebody who I know their real name. Anyways, Coleman knew many of the people attending this weekend. A lot of people from Ontario are actually here. Coleman said we saw people that we travel up to Nunavut with. So it's kind of like a bit of a family reunion of friends. Oh, there you go. Jacques Pelchier and Louise Filteau of Montreal can attest to the number of familiar faces that can be seen miles from home. They said, I just ran into some people from Trois-Rivières. We knew and we run into people we know frequently, said Peltier. Nancy Robertson from Sussex Corner didn't have to travel far to the event, but she had geocached in over 40 countries and has made many friends. What else we got here? This is interesting. We ran into friends we had been on a geocaching cruise with in 2016, said Robertson. They were from Delta, BC. Okay, well, I know who they're talking about. And so now whoever... Oh, okay, I know who Nancy Robertson is. I got confused. I thought they were talking about the Coleman from Ontario again. Yeah, we've run into a lot of our Ontario friends as well. Yeah, absolutely. We ran into the monkeys. We ran into lots of friends who we hadn't seen since cruises, or, folks who we had connected with who live in central or eastern Canada who we don't see very often. So, that's the fun of megas, right? Cool. Anyways, so
Wet Coaster kicked in. He says, I know Chris. That's her real name. Paperclip is the geocaching name.
There you go.
Cool deal.
Look at that. Small world.
There you go. Thank you, Wet Coaster.
And Wet Coaster also goes on to say, reporting something within a week is good for the BBC.
CBC? Yes.
CBC.
Yeah. I just thought that was the Centers for Bear Control, but
I hope it isn't.
Trois-Rivières sounds so fancy. It's just the Tri-River. Isn't that like Land of the Tri-Rivers right here in Tri-Cities?
Kind of. Three Rivers is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Just sounds fancier over there.
Well, Trois-Rivières is in Quebec. So there you go. Or Quebec.
Well, Quebec, because that's what I've been told. Well, we got Three Rivers here too, so there. All right. Well, hey, there's such great things going on back there, and we're glad you had a good time back there, Land Monkey, but we're glad you came home and joined us back here on a Thursday night. And I'm scrolling to look for the message I found, and because I said that, I'll never find it on time, but there you go. Komokino says, yay, Monkey is back. So apparently it's just not good without you.
Aw. Nice to be missed.
We did miss you. We're glad you're back. And we're also glad to welcome back GSM times 2 as a guest. So thank you for coming back, Scott.
Boy, it seems like it's been a long time. So thanks for having me back.
Well, time flies and things get busy, but we're glad you're here. And you're familiar to a lot of our listeners. You're familiar to us, of course. We're glad we've had you on before. And you are rewind that. You're also quite well known in the geocaching community. But, there might be a listener out there who hasn't been blessed by your wisdom and knows all about you. So Take a second and give us your elevator pitch and tell us about yourself.
Well, started geocaching November 2014. I have a lot of hides and a fair amount of finds. Got my Route 66 t-shirt because I was the curator of the Route 66 Adventure Lab series and also did California Highway 1. And then I have also presented, I think at 11, maybe more, mega events. And including this year, I was over at Geo Woodstock 2023 and Cache in the Bay 2023, where I did a presentation on leveling up your adventure labs.
Sounds familiar.
You know, we should talk about something like that.
Let's do it right now.
Oh, okay.
Kind of does tie in, doesn't it?
Well, you know, speaking of that, you've appeared here on Caching in the Northwest and several other podcasts. I do listen to other podcasts, and you're on them. Discussing adventure labs. Now, tell us your experience with adventure labs and, you know, kind of your history with them.
Well, I love them. I've done over about 1,500 locations, which I don't think is an extraordinary number. I think what makes me a little bit different is I have access to 3 different premium accounts, and I've also been involved in 5 different projects, and so I have 25. I've created 25 adventure labs, 180 locations, and among those things that I've done, like I said, I curated the historic Route 66 and the California Highway 1 series, and and then I did a presentation there at Cache in the Bay. It was recorded, and we have the show notes will have a bit.ly link to the presentation, which lasts about 36 minutes.
There you go.
Oh, very good. And
There's a link.
There's the link. Yeah, it's it's bit.ly, bit.ly, and it's pretty easy. It's 43 capital D, capital C, small c, capital G, small d for the listening audience. You can stop, write that down, and and then go watch that presentation.
I think
we'll
that's my
repeat it
password
72 times, so you'll never forget it.
I think that's my password. You just have to figure out which website it's to.
Yeah, all of them.
All of them. Because make all your passwords the same. Nothing could go wrong.
Much easier.
Yeah. No, don't do that.
And then write it down on a Post-it note.
Yeah.
You know, if you put it under the keyboard, nobody will ever see it.
My network administration teacher told us that the single greatest threat to network security ever invented was the Post-it note.
How true.
Hey,
Bell on the Move says, I was at the Mega in San Jose, California. I missed this talk at the event as I was entertaining 2 new geocaching families.
And
that's a good reason to
he
miss.
put together a couple of the gadget caches. So great. Hasn't been geocaching for a long time, but a great addition. As a matter of fact, he just hosted one of the Maker Magics and just opened up his garage, and a lot of good geocaches were created there that day.
Well, that's awesome.
Fun.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, hey, while we're talking about maybe getting people caught up on things I might not have heard about, Scott, can you tell us a little bit about the Lincoln Highway Route 66 Adventure Lab and the Highway 1 series, all these big Adventure Lab projects you've been involved in?
Sure. Lincoln Highway was the original first mapped out highway in the United States, running from New York to San Francisco. KC_11 curated that and got a bunch of geocachers to make a bunch of adventure labs, and I was privileged to do one of those. And then in the process of doing that, came up with the idea of somebody should do this on Route 66, and so I went ahead and did it on Route 66. Got 84 geocachers. They created 94 Adventure Labs, 852 locations that stretch all the way from Chicago to Santa Monica. And I had such a good time doing that I thought, gee, somebody should do this on California Highway 1, which runs from San Clemente up to Montecito, or not Montecito, Mendocino Coast County. And so we got 52 geocachers, 57 adventures, 556 locations. And yeah, that was quite a challenge because we know that 65 miles of the Big Sur coastline has absolutely no internet connection. So my next little project was trying to figure out how to do Adventure Labs without an internet connection.
Right.
Spent about 3 months doing a lot of experimenting, running around with my phone in airplane mode, and came up with a document that tells how to do it. And then also was working with Cache Advance with Lisa and made a video that shows you about an 8.5-minute video. So yeah, so got a little bit of experience. I won't say I'm an expert. The only thing I'm expert of is being me, and I'm pretty good at that.
Well,
But
you know,
that's it.
they say to be a leader, all you have to be is one step ahead of the people that you're leading, right? So
Yep.
you led the way on a lot of things. We appreciate all the work you've done. And Keats94 added in the chat a big thanks to inspiring us Canadians for creating the TCHALS, the Trans-Canadian Highway Adventure Lab series, if I said that correctly.
Yeah, you're going to have those guys on and explain where it is and how it's going and how
Well,
that
it's in
project is
Canada. I can tell you that right now. It's spoiler alert.
Yeah, and
It runs across
how
Canada.
It's going, it goes east-west or
Yeah.
west-east, depending which end just to Berlin.
Yeah. So,
Or west and east if you start in the middle.
ooh.
But
you
then
can,
you're in the
bounce
prairies.
back and forth, and you know.
What are you
that's,
doing?
You know. Yeah, it's probably better if you start at one end and go across.
Okay.
You choose.
and then come on down and go up the Route 66 back
There
the
you
other
go.
direction.
Go across Route 6, come back up Highway 1,
Yep.
and you know.
Go to the Lincoln Highway, just crisscross.
Okay.
If you start on the east coast of Canada, go to the west coast, you could come down Highway 1 into California, catch 66, and head back up and, to the east coast of the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big triangle.
Well, and then let's not forget that Washington has their own coastal
That's right.
Adventure Lab series.
Yeah,
you
you'd
go.
follow that down to connect to Highway 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something
We just
like
got to
that.
get Oregon involved somehow.
Yep.
But they're going to do it different.
Well,
Have you
yeah.
been to Oregon? They
That's
do
how
everything.
they do everything differently.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Gotta love Oregon.
That's just how it runs. All right. Well, hey, there's some great stuff out there. The bottom line is there's a lot of adventure labs out there to find, and you're responsible for organizing a lot of them.
Well, thank you.
Now, Geocaching HQ has made some changes recently. They I think we talked about it in the podcast earlier, but they've made a change that reduces the maximum geofence to 500 meters for all Adventure Lab stages. How do you deal with this new change? How do you interpret that? How it's,
Well, I interpreted that the locations, the geofencing for each location can't be more than 500 meters, which is about 0.31 miles of 3 miles. And you know what? I think it's a good idea. When I can't remember if it was 100,000 or 50,000 meters.
it was big. Yeah.
So 32 miles or 31 miles or 62 miles. I think if you're a location-based game, bringing location back into the game is kind of a good idea. And
But
go
Gio,
ahead.
sometimes too, you just said there's a 65-mile stretch with no internet on Highway 1.
That's what I was
So
getting at.
there you go. If you did the 31 miles, you'd be able to catch something on one end or another.
Well, the key to doing Adventure Labs without an internet connection is load it in before you lose your connection. Load it in. Don't exit the Adventure Lab. Don't exit the app. don't run your navigation, don't run your auto navigation, because it will take over and kick out the Adventure Lab. So that really is the key. This is really not going to affect that. So, you know, you're going to have it loaded up. You're going to go into there 15 miles, and you're not going to have internet connection, and you wouldn't have had it otherwise. You're just going to have to get closer for that answer to pop up.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that, because I wasn't clear with some of those ALs, like the T-Chals and the Route 66 and all these ones where there's long stretches where there may not be data coverage if that was handled by just creating huge geofences, or if the geofences are still, you know, relatively small. But there's, as you're explaining, there's just steps one must take to deal with the fact that there's no data at that location.
Yeah. And if you've got the Adventure Lab app open and you go through that geofence, that bit is flipped. So you can answer that at any time.
Yep.
As long as, like Scott said, you don't log out or close it.
Well, you could answer it. You could answer that location. If you log out, you're not going to be able to answer the farther locations. But, you know, we're creative people. we're creative people, and sometimes we're creative to create, you know, these geo arts, and sometimes we're creative to solve problems that are out there.
Starcasher says, my phone doesn't like the offline adventure logging. When I answer wrong while offline, the adventure app often freezes and I have to restart the app and the adventure. So I need online access to restart. So you should try it, Starcasher. Once you go through the geofence, that should be, you know, should turn that answer on for you no matter where you are. And even when you're offline, it's okay. You can go answer it later when you're online.
And for Starcasher, I would say go out, do some around town where you have data access, but put your phone into airplane mode and turn off Wi-Fi so that you get practice before you need it.
That's training. That's preparation.
That's training. Yep.
That's a thinking right there.
I often see on my phone when I'm looking at location settings that it says, "Oh, location is more accurate if you leave Wi-Fi enabled." Is that? Do you find that location accuracy is severely diminished if you don't have Wi-Fi turned on?
I've never experienced that.
Okay.
I've never even knew about that.
It's probably just marketing hype.
No, actually, the phones will go out and look for Wi-Fi hotspots or SSIDs, and those have already been mapped by Google, so they have a location attached to them. And based on the strength, they can estimate a distance, and it gives you another form of triangulation.
Okay.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's true. One more. Keith says, I have a good phone plan. I'm with Freedom Mobile. It sounds so liberating. And holy moly, it's tough to get data reception outside of BC.
Yeah. And good night to Keats, by the way. He says it's 1:30 a.m. on the East Coast where he is. He's so.
Yeah, I think what Keats was saying is not that he has a good phone plan, but
have a good phone.
He's giving the advice to do that because
have a good phone
very
plan.
familiar with the Freedom mobile phone plan, and it is not a good phone plan if you are playing geolocation games.
Gotcha.
So I think he's saying don't use that one.
Okay. There you have it. So make sure you get a good phone.
He isn't. I am.
Okay. Well, there goes another sponsorship.
That's right.
Yeah, I was really concerned about that Freedom mobile sponsor.
I know.
I'm back here to screw up all your sponsorships.
Who are we going with now? Rogers, AT&T, or no? Anyway.
Hey, let's go with leveling up your adventure labs.
That's even better. Scott, I was able to watch that video, and I found some things you said very interesting. You're saying that geocaching and adventure labs are two completely different games, yet they kind of overlap.
Some people say they're two different games using the same score sheet. And you know what? I can't disagree with that. because when you really compare them side by side, they are more different than similar. They're both location based. That's the similarity.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're geocaching, you're going to go find a cache. You're going to sign a log. You're going to log it online. The CO, well, going to change this. CO gets an email, but now the COs are going to get an email if you write a review, and you can hide an unlimited number of geocaches. Within 100 miles or some, not clearly defined distance from your home. Adventure Labs, you don't do any of that stuff. Well, except now you are going to get an email. But, basically you go to a location, find and answer a question. And now in the last week, and I've gotten a couple of them, and I'm really excited about it, that you do get an email, which was really beneficial because one person's comment was not everything worked as designated. And I emailed the person. I said, "What didn't work?" And she told me, and she's right. I had put in there, this is, it's 5 digits, and it was and I had put 5 digits in a comma. And that's not, that's junk in, junk out. So that was really fabulous. That was
Good
really
feedback,
nice. I'm glad. Great to have that feedback, because as we know, until a week ago, you had to go in and look at the Adventure Labs to see what the journals were. And then, the other thing is they've really they've followed similar but different paths.
Geocaches and Adventure Labs.
Geocaches and Adventure Labs. They both started out, geocaches started out hikes, really interesting places, more quality over numbers, over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And Adventure Labs, when they were first introduced and you were only going to get one, I think everybody did the best job that they could to do that. And even at this point, most people have less than 7. So that's only 35 locations. If you were only going to be able to set 35 geocaches, I think you'd set the best geocaches you could. And, but then, geocaches, then the micros came into the urban areas, and we were looking at a lot of lamppost caches and guardrails and so forth. But then people became clever, and we started getting some clever hides, caches in plain sight. And then people like Bell on the Move and others, W.V. Tim being the grandfather of it or the godfather of it, started doing with gadget caches. And Adventure Labs, kind of the same thing. It started out quality over quantity. But right now, there's a trend to doing geo art, where you can go to a rest stop in Tennessee where 34 people got together, and you can do 145 Adventure Labs, 145 locations. One Facebook person said that was an hour well spent.
Wow.
And, so it makes me wonder, geocaches, they had power trails and we have geo art. Makes me wonder, okay, we've gotten to the power trails and the geo art in Adventure Labs. Where do we come where we're going to get the gadget caches and the clever hides, the equivalent of those? And that's, to me, that's what leveling up your Adventure Lab is about.
Wow, an hour at a rest stop. I don't know if my family could endure that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and you're just answering multiple choice or true false questions.
Right. My I was recently on a road trip and stopped at a road stop. What is it?
Rest stop.
Rest stop. Thank you. And there was a regular that was at the far end, almost where you pulled off the freeway, and then a multi the other direction. So, there was only like 3 or 4 stops, and, my family's like, okay, we're done with the bathroom. Can we get going now? So,
yeah.
I've done that for my family many times.
many times. So yeah, so can we level these up? Can
Well,
we
okay.
make
So
them better?
in your presentation, you warn that there could be challenges in leveling up an adventure lab. What does that mean? What challenges are you going to come across?
Well, the first challenge is if you're going to have a complicated adventure lab, you're going to write up a description to tell people what is necessary and how to do it, and that certain things are going to apply here. But that start button is right there. So if people don't stop and read your description and hit that start, they're going to miss that. And also, geocachers have a habit. They've established a pattern of not reading descriptions of the geocaches. So that's going to be your first challenge. The second is people will, and sorry, Land Monkey, but sometimes some earth caches scroll till you get to blah, blah, blah. What's the questions? So let's keep our descriptions short. Let's keep them precise. Do your research. Don't just take a picture, don't take a picture of a plaque, take it home, type that up as your location, and then, take a word off of it, and that's your answer. Do some research. Find something that interests you that will interest them that you can't find at the plaque. And and then another thing that you can do to make them read the descriptions of the locations is to make your answer two parts. One part comes out of your description and the other part comes out of the location. Now, if you talk to Seebeck Tribe, she will tell you that created a problem for her. Mm-hmm. She, right in her initial description, like the second line was to avoid frustration, read the descriptions. Mm-hmm. She did a 10-stage location. One of her journals says, well, thank goodness I learned to read the descriptions after the first one. Another person never did it. She went through all 10. Her journal is this, I had to go to the internet on 2 of this. It took me up to half an hour to find the answers. And she didn't need to do that. She just needed to RTFD. So there's a challenge. There's one of the challenges.
I'll have to say I was there when that adventure lab was released, and I did it. And I have to say it is a little awkward, once you go through and find out what you have to do, then to go back a step, read through that description, find out what you're looking for, then come back and answer.
It is.
So I mean, you're all in this, it's all in the same app. The information's there. It's just an awkward movement. You're used to keep going to the right. And here you have to go back to the left, and it feels just
feels
wrong.
Awkward because mm-hmm. we are used to, or many people are used to being adventure labs being 5 quick finds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's another challenge is their expectation is that it's going to be 5 quick finds. Now, and what you're describing strikes me as funny. Because people will spend 20 minutes looking for a bison tube in a pine tree, and yet they're going to complain to us that we didn't tell them that the answer was THREE and not the number 3. So,
if it makes you feel better, Scott, I'll complain about the bison tube in the pine tree as well.
Okay, very good. That does make me feel better.
Now, I learned it was from MC3 Cats, who says when you ask the question, I always put in parentheses, a single number or a word, rather than is it spelled out 3 or the number 3? I don't know, right? So
yeah, it's in German.
Mm-hmm. 3 in German.
I mean, we do, and I highly recommend that people do that because because they're going to rate you down that you didn't do it, that they actually had to try 3 and then 3.
Right.
But,
right. Starcasher says at Geo Woodstock, I got halfway through the locations trying to answer the locations before another cacher told me why it was not accepting the answer and asked if I read the description.
Yeah, because at Geo Woodstock, I used a technique where they had to have a code word, and they had to look up that code word. The Adventure Lab was self-contained. All the information that you needed was there. So somebody could have done it from anywhere as long as they spoofed the phone. So I made them go and find a code word, and they had to put in that code word every answer. And and I think what he just described was somebody who didn't read the description, didn't realize that you had to put in the code word.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
UDAC says I did one of GSM times 2's ALs with a local puzzle cache owner and was surprised he had a hard time with one of his leveled up ALs because she didn't read the description.
Yep. Yeah, that is a common challenge that we're going to have is training people to read the description.
Yeah.
So can you give us an example, maybe brief? We're already 36 minutes into this show, which is utterly amazing to me. The time's just gone by. Can you give a brief example of what a leveled up Adventure Lab looks like to you?
I'm going to give you 3 examples.
Okay, I'll let you do 3.
Okay, one of them, and Land Monkey came up with the term self-guided tour to describe kind of your basic Adventure Lab. You go someplace, you read about it, read the description, find out about it, answer a question, and you move on. Well, in Bellagio's walk in Ojai, we did something a little bit different. Did something that, I like to make videos. So what we did is we enhanced and put videos in. We enhanced it because when you break into the geofencing, you're not where the answer is. What you have to do is watch the video where we're going to make a series of right and left turns for a couple 100 yards or maybe less. And then you get to where you can answer the question. So just a little bit different. We had a lot of fun with it. Definitely people who don't read the description have a lot of issues with it. People who don't break the geofencing before they watch the video have a little bit of issues because they get to the answer and it's not up yet. But that's that. I thought that was a pretty good example of an enhanced self-guided tour.
Okay, so go ahead, Whitson.
You maybe asked the same thing. If you're watching a video, that's, I assume, streaming over data. What if you have your phone in airplane mode?
I wouldn't be able to do it.
Right. Okay. You have to be online. Well,
okay.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, you can't load you could. There are ways you could do it completely data free, but you would really have to plan ahead.
Okay.
You need data for Adventure Labs, basically.
Yeah, I think you would have to, if you're going to do it from home and just review it, you would probably have to write down the series of left and right hand turns.
Well, let's take our young friend, Mr. Keats. He comes over to the States with his Freedom Mobile plan and he doesn't have data.
Yeah.
That's going to be a problem. So anyway, what has the response been to that particular Adventure Lab?
Well, it's done by a dog, so they're going to up it anyways. but it has been very positive. I think it has like a 4.9. There was one person who did say, video doesn't work well with Adventure Labs, but it's been very positive and a challenge.
Okay, next one. I interrupted.
Next one. Okay, so the next type of Adventure Lab that I think is leveled up, it's when people take a self-guided tour and they wrap it up in a story. And so, the case of the fingered killer, it's by ShareBear64. and very creative person. And so what she's done is she's wrapped this into a murder mystery where, where when you arrive on scene, there's the reporter, I need a lead, been murdered. And there's 3 suspects. There's Itchy Palms, let's see, Deb L. Cross and somebody else. But, it's a hilarious story. And she takes you through, and you go and you have to answer the question that's related to the location. But her journals are pieces of evidence that are being collected and released. So, there's the coroner's report, and there's the towing company's report. Mm-hmm. And after you've done all 5 adventures, then you go to do the bonus. And at the bonus, you have to come up with who did the murdering based on this evidence, and what was the key piece of evidence that cracked the case.
So and basically, then, Clue.
Clue. Basically, a more clever Clue, more clever than Clue. So that, and she wrapped it up in a story, and it was wonderful. Just definitely leveled up, and not your typical, go to the dog park, read the sign, go to the railroad station, read the sign, go to this, read the sign. And then the last type
because geocachers hate to read.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
If you hate to read, take up Munzie.
Oh, that was good.
Bill on the Move says, reading? I'm out.
And then the other example, Jay in LA, she sent me several of hers as tests, and I looked at a couple of them, and they're really, really good. And there's one, it's called Music Cats, and it's self-contained. All of the information that you need is given within the Adventure Lab. Now, she takes you to a park because you have to break geofencing. So she takes you to a park, tells you about, why this park is important to her, why the music and the serenity in the park are important to her, and about cats. It's a very nice personal story. But then she talks about different songs, and you have to identify the song based on either your personal knowledge of the song, your ability to figure things out, or look up on the internet. And and it's, they're out there. These are the equivalent of clever geocaches or gadget caches. They are leveled up beyond, and I think it's fantastic. And I hope more people will come up with some ideas. I have that video which gives some pretty good ideas. I've got great feedback on the presentation where people are saying, "Oh, you've given me some ideas," and hopefully they're coming out and doing them.
So, Scott, speaking of various leveled up adventure labs, you've mentioned to us that there's one that anyone can do. Do you want to explain what that means?
Yeah. So I took at both Geo Woodstock and Cache in the Bay, I had a 10 stage adventure lab that was leveled up. I've taken 5 of those stages and I put it into a adventure lab, and it's in test mode right now. So when it's in test mode, anybody can go in there, they can read it, they can look at it, they can answer the question because there's no geofencing. Now, they don't get credit for it. This is just a drill to give them an example of what a leveled up adventure lab is. And in the adventure lab, I'm going to take you over to Geocaching Toolbox. You're going to decode some Braille. You're going to go geocachingtoolbox.com, decode some signal flags, and then you're going to have 3 stages that are a logic puzzle. And you're going to, now you have to do those in order because they're all interrelated, but they're interrelated in that order. So this location 3, location 4, location 5. Make sure you do them in that order. And the easiest way to do that is up on the upper right hand corner. There's a little icon that has 3 lines to it. When you click on that, you bring up a list view of of the Adventure Labs or Adventure Lab locations if you're in an Adventure Lab, and that's much easier than trying to identify what it is on the map. So yeah, so that's that's an Adventure Lab. It's an adventurelab.page.link/ and it's capital U 7 capital K capital X. And if you want an example of a level up Adventure Lab that you're probably going to hate, like you hate a gadget cache for the first 20 minutes that you're dealing with it, and you love it on the 21st minute when it's open, that's what this Adventure Lab is like.
I only hate gadget caches when I struggle with them, and then Chris walks up and opens it on the first try.
Oh, yep.
I love that one. That was a lot of fun. I don't know why they made it all those other options. You just need the one.
You just need the one.
Gadget caches like that are fun for the first 5 or 10 minutes, and then the 10th through 20th minute, you're just fuming, and then you find it.
And I think you've just described this Adventure Lab that's in test mode. But the one that was in Cache in the Bay, it's still rated 4.7. So but of course that's only rated by people who completed it, by the way.
Yeah.
Not people who did not complete it.
Well, those are the only people you want to get feedback from anyway.
That's right. Starcacher loved your logic puzzle on the GeoWoodstock AL.
Nice.
Oh, thank you.
Good feedback.
And let's see. Let's read this in order from UDAC. Fu Manchu in my area had a couple of multiple choice questions for his AL by Dodger Stadium, and one of the questions had part of the coordinates to the bonus cache. So you really had to read everything and take screenshots, or you lose the ability to go back to the coordinates.
Interesting.
So I've always seen the bonus cache coordinates put into the journals, so you can go back and look at them.
Well, first I'm going to tell you that when we did Fu Manchu's, we did not read everything. We got to the end. Where's the bonus? And we actually had to log into a sock puppet account to go back so we could read the questions and get it. I have another friend of mine. He did one of the California Highway 1s. He takes you to one location, tells you all about it. The last line of that location description is, you're 6 feet from the bonus cache. Here's the coordinates. I didn't read the whole description. I missed it.
Oh, Bell in the Move says, I'm working to release my first adventure with a gadget cache, bonus cache.
Oh,
yeah. There we go.
And that's one of the ideas that when you watch our video, why can't we have Adventure Labs that take you to 5 different gadget caches, or 5 different Earth caches, or 5 different highly favorited caches? Because the guideline says you can't place a location, you can't place an object as part of the Adventure Lab, so we can't put a code word in a Altoid tin, but nothing says we can't go to previously existing or caches that meet all other criteria and can be independently done. So there we go. There's a good idea for everybody who's listening to this. Find the best, most favorited caches in the area and take people and show them to them. They'll really appreciate it. And get 2 first.
There you go.
So it becomes it becomes a self-guided tour of the top geocaches in your area.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And you can go back and edit an Adventure Lab. So if you decide, hey, this cache is better than the other, you can keep that as a rolling top 5 list.
Or if one of them gets archived or something.
Well, yeah,
happens
but I
to
mean, this puts the impetus on the hiders to try to get into this top 5 list.
Yeah. With one caution, make sure you're only editing your location. Don't archive your location.
Yes, good
Edit your
tip.
location.
White Coaster says, I did an adventure lab in Winnipeg where I had to start each answer with a code word from a cache near the first stop of the adventure lab. Same owner for the adventure lab and cache.
Yep.
That sounds familiar. Like something you would do, GSM times 2.
It does sound kind of familiar. I did that with one of mine. My first adventure lab that I created, people are using things like, what's the signpost and so forth. And I wanted to come up with a way that was better. And so I created a cache. It's called the Ojai Adventure Lab starts here. You go to the cache. And it's just a basic traditional cache. Everybody can sign the log, put it away, and it's have nothing to do with the adventure lab. But there is a pin glued in there, and it has words and numbers. And those words and numbers have to be on in every answer. Kind of similar, very similar to what we did at Geo Woodstock and Cache in the Bay.
There you go. Komakino says Skimbosh has a couple of adventure labs that you have to watch YouTube videos to see where to go.
Oh,
Interesting.
That's interesting.
So Bill on the Move knows about them. He loves the Skimbosh adventures.
Yeah. And Jay in LA did the same thing, contacted a whole bunch of the geovloggers and had them make little segments for her.
Nice.
Yeah. So
UDAC thought GNLA was one person, but I think there are a couple.
yeah, it's not and, it's and. It's the ampersand and.
JNLA.
Gotcha. Bell on the Move says DNF Hound has a lab that is exciting to read. The adventure is essentially a great sci-fi novel.
Fun.
And a hilarious sci-fi novel. Yeah, I did the adventure lab, came home, read it to my wife, who's a Muggle, and she absolutely loved it.
It's fantastic. My wife really enjoys doing adventure labs.
Mine too.
Yeah. I mean, you're not typically walking in the woods, trying to find this bison in a pine tree, but nonetheless, it usually takes you to very interesting places. So, let's see.
For Starcacher, he's asking what would be the answer. I wouldn't. You might just ask something like, "What's the door? What color of the door on the gadget cache is the gadget cache?" Something. You don't want to get too specific. I think you just want to be kind of general. We don't want people frowning on what we're doing. We don't want to be pushing the line when we don't have to push the line.
Mm-hmm. But you want to make it impossible for people trying to cheat. Well, not impossible, very difficult.
Yeah, difficult.
Adding a level of difficulty for the cheaters.
And I will have to say this about me. I have given up on trying to make it impossible for the cheaters. I want it to be the best experience for the person who is doing it correctly. So my recent ones, we're not looking at sewer grates or telephone poles. It has something to do with where I took them. And if somebody can get that on Google, Maps or Street View or going to pictures, fine. I really don't care. I want a good experience for the guy who's there.
I found a nice series of it, or a single adventure lab that took you through a nearby town, showed you some of the great old houses, and they're just so beautiful and well done. And you walk up and you're looking at manhole covers or utility covers on the ground to get a number or a code or a word.
Yep.
Like, that's not what you're supposed to be looking at here. So,
very good example, Chris.
IHAM has one here. There is one adventure lab that features gadget caches by Goblin Dust, Bounce Bounce, and Team Noltex.
Wow, that's cool.
That's cool.
I was going to say, when you were saying, well, it can take you to caches, and I thought, there is one around here. And that takes you, that's miles and miles of driving if you want to do just that one adventure lab. But if you're in the area and you're doing them anyway.
Sure.
And you're doing Goblin Dust, Bounce Bounce, and you're doing their geocaches.
That makes it worth the drive for sure.
Yeah, well, you probably were going to doing the drive anyways, just to do those geocaches. Now you get a little bonus of doing an adventure lab.
Yep. Well, GSM times 2, thank you so much for coming on tonight and talking about how to level up our adventures. I've got some ideas. I've got an adventure lab credit and a couple for the WSGA that I need to put out. So I'm going to put some work into that and try to come up with something good.
Sounds great. I hope that I've inspired you. That was the whole intent of this whole presentation, was to inspire people to come up with creative ideas.
Fantastic. And listeners, thank you for tuning into this episode of Caching in the Northwest. We hope you've been inspired as well.
Absolutely. We want to take a moment to thank Land Sharks, LANDSHARKZ, and Gold Country Geotourism, our corporate Denali level sponsors. Landsharks.ca is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online, and they're shipping those orders daily. And for absolutely amazing geocaching adventures, check out exploregoldcountry.com. We want to thank all of our faithful Denali level supporters: Land Sharks, Gold Country Geotourism, Team Squirrel, Groovy Owl, Cool Cow Cachers, and Cashly. If you want to know more about supporting this here podcast, well, check that Patreon link on the CachingNW.com website.
Like Skyhawker did.
And Green Words.
Ooh, and Mountain Bike. Hey, we are officially endorsed by
That's
Mountain Bike.
right.
We've made it now.
We've arrived.
And just finding our way.
Broncos fan for life.
Kev MacD.
Korsgat.
Kitty Quest.
RE54321.
Buenos, Seattle.
Flagman.
The Camp Clan.
Dora Moore.
Subway Mark.
MC3 Cats.
B. Pendragon.
Segehove.
J Carr.
Wet Coaster.
GeoNav Pro.
Antaeus.
Hey, how about this guy? GSM times 2.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Shh, don't say anything about him. I think he might be listening.
You never know. I've also heard of Just Carlo.
I saw Just Carlo just last weekend.
All right.
Ackerdoc.
Active in the chat, UDAC.
Alarubric.
Geocaches.
Gas Station Tuna.
You Talks to Rocks.
Seebeck Tribe.
CRS 98.
Kid Vegas 19.
BC Rock Crawler.
RAR 285.
Limax.
Genies.
Trexer.
Boomer 365.
Team Noltex.
Peach of Washington.
Hebnerv.
The LG 9000.
And of course, the good folks from Logwork. And again, Scott, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And thank you all for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. If you like the show, click the Patreon link on the CachingNW.com website. If you didn't like the show, let us know what you want us to talk about. In either case, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a review. Now, if you were in a restaurant, you would tip. If you were in a live audience, you would clap. But since you're on a podcast, why don't you leave us a free, fast, fabulous, fantastic 5-star review? You can call into 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, ask a question, or ask HL to give us all an AL credit any time of the day or night. And of course, you can email us at feedback@cachingandw.com. Join us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific for a live show and even livelier chat. This show is produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwoods, Jay Kennedy, and Brian Lang. It's licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Copyright 2023 by Chris Umfenauer. And folks, I ask you to stay tuned for
The After Show.
Show. Starcacher wants to know, is there an analog version of Gold Country?
So, yes. I think the most well-known analog version of Gold Country would be the GeoTour books that you can...
oh, yes. There you go. Winos says, hello and good night. I've got a credit too, and really some good inspiration as well. Thanks, Scott. Oh, let's see.
Could I make one last little point?
Please.
And don't want to put down the. I don't want to put down anything. Power trails are wonderful. Geo art is wonderful. The geo art for Adventure Labs are wonderful. They bring joy to people. Yeah. I was listening to Brian the other day, and he said it very well, something like this. There are so many aspects of geocaching. Find the parts that bring you joy and do them, and leave the rest for others to enjoy.
Yeah.
That's right. So very true. I mean, there are so many aspects of geocaching, right? Some people are wildly into coins. And yes, maybe they geocache a little bit, but they're into it for the coin. That's great. That's the aspect they found and they love. Other people are, I don't know why, but they're really excited about earth caches.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Only because it's the best type of geocache, but
okay.
It does require reading, so maybe it's not for everyone.
Yeah, they're the same ones that asked for extra homework in school.
Let's see.
I sometimes wonder if they put the 1,024 character limit on earth caches, would we like earth caches better?
Well, maybe before the end of this year, there'll be a book to help people write better earth caches.
There you go.
Couldn't like them any more than Land Monkey does.
Hey, not every earth cache is created equal.
That's true.
That's true.
Wino Seattle says, I love my waymarking.
There you go. A lot of people enjoy that aspect for sure.
I have to say, the comment came in and we'd already moved on. But UDAC was very surprised, GSM times 2, when you said, if you don't want to read, play Munzie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can blame Scott for losing that sponsor.
Let's see. Keats is the Cross Canada road trip is still going well, off to Mabau tomorrow. And eventually the Newfoundland. I like saying it that way. Newfoundland. Still lots of kilometers ahead. And he just missed the monkeys in Fredericton. I saw their signature at the mega event log, though. That's almost like seeing the monkeys.
Yeah, almost. But yeah, we missed seeing Keats as well. We were hoping to, but we had a big agenda, which we'll talk about another time, but definitely saw lots of familiar faces. Yes.
We're all going over to Starcacher's house because, 15 minutes into the show, I'm taking a cherry pie out.
Whoa. Now,
it was store-bought frozen variety out of the oven, letting it cool for the rest of the show. We don't care.
It probably still tastes very good.
Yeah. I've had cherry pies baked for me for birthday cakes because I prefer pie to cake. So.
Cool. Sad note, we just lost our cherry tree last week. It fell over.
Yeah.
We were on vacation and my dad says, the cherry tree looks funny. I don't remember it leaning over in the yard like that. Oh no, it's broke. It's gone.
Oh dear. That's not good.
George Washington chopped it down.
Yeah, that's right. UDAC says, I'm hoping to get one more AL credit and put together an adventure lab highlighting the Asian community's contribution to Santa Monica.
Interesting. That's a
We love it.
cultural tour.
Yeah. I bet if you reached out to HQ and said, that's what I want to do, who's going to say no to UDAC?
I'm not,
That's right.
but I'm not at HQ, so
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
that's right.
Kitty Quest likes to have pumpkin pie in lieu of birthday cake, so
Okay.
you're not alone.
Yeah.
It can be challenging depending on when your birthday is. Might be hard to get a pumpkin pie if your birthday.
Oh, you can always make
April.
pumpkin pie.
I had a sweet
I mean,
potato
you
pie
know,
recently. It's
and-
pretty good.
Really, I mean, you can get pumpkin spice latte just about any time.
But why would you?
That's right.
Just because you can
Doesn't mean you should. I don't know. McDonald's doesn't get that much mileage, and when they bring the McRib back,
Yeah.
I
Or
don't
the
know what
Shamrock Shake.
pumpkin spice comes out. Yeah. In the Shamrock Shake. There you go. Folks, thank you for joining us. We've wandered off into the world of fast food, and that shouldn't happen on caching in the Northwest. So until next week, get out and get caching in the Northwest.